Hello, it's Foon from hustlecastle.site. Welcome back to everyone who's been here before. And to anyone who's finding me for the first time with this video, lovely to have you. Please stick around. I have been given to borrow a full armor breaker set. So this video is going to be all about that ancient set, including taking it for some tests. To start off, there will be some overhead announcement stuff at the beginning here. Anyone offended by that, feel free to use the chapter links to skip ahead. But do please stick around. I try very hard to make these videos worth the time of watching, and I hope you agree. So again, chapter links below. We're going to start with some housekeeping channel stuff. I'll try to make it quick. The plan for this video is to start by taking a look at the set description. Then I'll do what I always do in these set testing videos. I'll do a really simple duel and play it in slow motion so we can find out the animations and cooldowns for the abilities. Then we'll talk about clan bosses. I already did my test there, so that'll be a quick summary of my results while I play a recording of an attack. Then I'll talk about runes for a minute. And finally, I'll do a series of squad challenges to see if having Armor Breaker in my squad is making me stronger or weaker. So stick around or skip ahead, either way. One thing I definitely need to mention is that my clan stacks is recruiting. We have, I think, almost 10 spots. I've been slacking in my recruiting duties, but we're still a really active, chatty clan. Very good players, the people who I turn to for advice. But we would all really love some fresh blood, some new ideas in the mix. What I would really like is to find a group of game friends who all want to move over together. The players who came with their friends are always cool people, so if that is you, please send me a DM on Discord. And I have a personal announcement. I did mention this in a live stream, but I made it into the YouTube Partner Program. So now I get a portion of the ad revenue from the ads that play before or during my videos. I actually just broke double digits for May, meaning $10, which is a little funny considering this video alone is like 10 hours of work. But it was a huge goal of mine for over a year to get into the program, so I'm really happy and extremely grateful to all of you who subscribed or watched videos so that I could qualify. And as a partner, I'm also able to turn on super thanks, which is like YouTube's built-in tip jar, kind of like buy me a coffee. I think a little animation gets added to the video if anyone actually does it. I don't expect anyone to do it, but I turned it on because why not turn it on? And while I'm shelling, I do have a merch store and I'm going to try to mention it more often. I commissioned this artwork based on the game resources and I've been selling them on mugs for a while and I just added pint glasses with the same designs. Yay! The artwork is my concept, just drawn by an artist who can, actually draw. And I have them all and genuinely think they look awesome. It's obviously a video game, but not like a poster or a logo. It's a little more subtle, classy. Okay, hopefully anyone I lost during the boring intro stuff just fast forwarded and I still have you. So let's start off by reading the set description. Oh, actually, did you guys see this? I don't know if everyone has it yet. I've got this Ascension button here and inside we have these new tabs. Something new, don't ask me what, I don't know. Now, where is Armor Breaker? Now, the most interesting thing here is that this is an archer that wears tank armor. If you're really new to ancient sets, I see this question pop up on Reddit every so often. Basically, why does Legionnaire have archer armor? Is that a bug? And no, it's not a bug. 3 out of the 10 tank ancient sets wear archer armor. We generally call this setup an assassin, a tank weapon with archer armor. The archer armor gives the tank way more damage at the cost of survivability. Now here we have the reverse, an archer in tank armor. And this is new. There's no other sets besides those 3 tank sets that have a mismatched armor and weapon class. But of course, everyone makes their own hybrids. In fact, the standard Dragonborn build uses tank armor. Check out my Dragonborn video next if you haven't seen it, by the way. And tank mages are, of course, very common too. But those are all players Frankensteining hybrids together on their own, sacrificing the 6 out of 6 set ability for the tank armor survivability. Here, we get the tank armor without giving up the 6 out of 6. So to me, that's what's most interesting about this set. However, and not to jump ahead, the 6 out of 6 does self-damage, so you don't end up with the survivability that I'd hoped for. And the other thing of note is this is a shotgun set. Shotguns as weapons all have an ability something like after 40k amount of damage, a cannon is summoned. And if it's an event shotgun, the cannon might do something kind of special. This here used to be my favorite shotgun, but I feel like even though mages are having a moment right now, we don't see them overpowered with spell power. So I'm not sure about it. I think I might like this one more now, which keep in mind I'm saying based just on the description. I've never tried it. I've never had a shotgun fighter in my main squad. I built an inventor ages ago, but he never made it into the starting lineup. And I can't try any of these now. That's part of the terms of me getting this set to borrow and test. I'm not allowed to reforge any of the gear. And they take it back, by the way. It's just to borrow. It's a sweet deal, but mostly just for the coolness factor. He's in head-to-toe standard gear. He doesn't make me stronger than my own fighters in all event gear, so don't be too jealous. But I did look at all my shotguns. I think I have most of the event shotguns ever. I was curious if any great sounding ones were just laying around. The newest one reduces the target's armor, so I feel like that doesn't make sense with this set ability. The res block one has potential, but none of them jump out at me as sounding super overpowered. Okay, let's actually read it. And now I'm tempted to not even look at the 2 and 4 out of 6, because why wouldn't you use 6 out of 6 if it's already in tank armor? But that self-damage does have me a little worried, so let's read them all. With 2 items. Each of the Armor Breaker's attacks reduces the physical armor of the target by 2% for 4 seconds, up to 5 effects. That's not bad for a 2 out of 6 ability. Most 2 out of 6 abilities are not like that super. 4 items. Each of the armor breaker's attacks reduces the physical armor of the target by 5% for 5 seconds, up to 5 effects. Same thing, just a little stronger. Every 3 seconds, the armor breaker makes an extra attack, dealing pure damage equal to 125% of the target's physical armor. This attack has a 30% chance to deal additional physical damage equal to 5% of the armor breaker's current health. 5% is not that much. And now the 6 out of 6. Each of the armor breaker's attacks reduces the physical armor of the target by 10% for 6 seconds, up to 5 effects. That's really adding up now. Every 3 seconds, the armor breaker makes an extra attack, dealing pure damage equal to 250% of the target's physical armor. This attack has a 50% chance to deal additional physical damage equal to 15% of the armor breaker's current health. Not bad. The armor breaker's preferred target is always the enemy with the greatest armor. That's actually pretty important, I think, for this set to all make sense, and it's only here in the 6 out of 6. At the beginning of the battle, the armor breaker increases their own health by 30% of the max health of the ally with the greatest health. But every second, the armor breaker takes 125,000 physical damage. That's every second, 125,000 physical damage. The effect lasts for the duration of the battle and is not removed on death. The less health the armor breaker has, the higher their attack speed. Max value 50%, min value 0%. When the armor breaker takes 200,000 damage, the nearest enemy takes physical damage equal to 400% of the armor breaker's armor. So a lot of good stuff in there. These more basic, the same abilities as the 2 and the 6 ability. The numbers get much more significant here in the 6 out of 6 version. I really like how it specifies that the target is going to be the enemy with the highest armor. So then all of these things are going to work better. So what I already foreshadowed there is the part where the armor breaker takes damage of 125,000 damage every second all battle long. And in fact, using this guy for the past couple weeks, he does die a lot. This isn't unheard of. Darkula has a similar catch in her set ability. And just like when we built Darkulas, if you're building a Darkula now, by the way, maybe don't. They are not in fashion at the moment. But for those of us who've been playing longer, just like when we built Darkulas back when, we had to give them some self-healing and also make sure we had another healer in the team. I think to use this set effectively, you'll need some healing because that's a lot of damage. So one last thing in this section, how do you build this set? This is actually a standard set. Each of the materials comes from a different part of the game, and they're all easy, though will take some time to build up. The Dark Soul mats will be the hardest, but these materials are in the normal Dark Souls material chests, the one near the bottom of the store. So a PIA, but not the crazy PIA that the very Dark Souls material chest near the top of the store is. And the other mats are all easy, just take some time to accumulate, you can only do so many gem bays every day. But this is standard, quote unquote standard, just like all the original sets, Darkula, Incinerator, Paladin, and some of the new ones like Dragonborn too. Okay, moving on to the next section, let's see this guy in action and get an idea for the animation and cooldowns. As a reminder, the abilities we are looking for are: each attack reduces armor. I don't expect we'll actually see that in an animation. Every 3 seconds, there should be an extra attack. We'll have to look really closely for that. 50-50, it could do extra damage. That'll be hard to see, but we know it's 50-50, so there's not much to learn from seeing it anyway. Armor Breaker will increase own health at the start of battle and take 125,000 self-damage every second. Actually, so not a lot of animations, so we'll just do one of these battles. And of course, this is a shotgun fighter, so we are going to get a cannon summoned. It takes 40,000 damage to do that, so I'm expecting that to pop up really fast. Let's see. Okay, the battle is starting. We're going to see the health, the total health on the right side increase 2 times. And as you can tell, I've slowed this down a lot for movie magic's sake. Okay, so right away, we're going to see the right side, only the right side increase. This must be the increase, the 30% of the archer. Boom, there it goes. Now, very soon, the increased health souls on both the Blade Kings are also going to trigger. That's going to happen on both sides. There it goes. Okay, so that increased health is really truly happening right at the start of battle, even before tank increased health souls go. Let's actually start this over again from the beginning, and this time we're going to watch the fighter himself. So obviously I've slowed this down to even less than half speed, and I did some math and have that info on screen. What we are seeing is a big shotgun ball come once every 1.5 seconds. It does 10 to 14,000 damage. Then every 3 seconds we see a little dart. Actually, we see the damage first, then the animation, but it's once every 3 seconds, which has to be the second ability. An extra attack dealing pure damage equal to 250% of the target's physical armor. It's doing like 380,000 damage every time. It's crazy. The turret is summoned at the 6-second mark. Curious, the 40,000 must only count from the normal shots because obviously he's done closer to 1 million damage at this point than just 40,000. The turret is shooting off a smaller version of the shotgun balls. And now that it's summoned, there's a lot more things firing in the air. We're also seeing the armor breaker turn red. Now, based on the battle clock, I believe this is happening once a second, so I'm guessing that is the self-damage. And I think that's all the animations, so we can speed up the rest to a normal game speed. If you could keep this guy alive, it would be amazing. Now, the stats are really interesting. Look at all of that pure damage, like wow. He also took 1.5 million damage, and that must be self-damage because the enemy BK never came close enough to hit him with her bare fists, and that's all that the BKs are armed with in this test. Though it's also possible I missed an ability on BK, but I think it's just self-damage. Now I want to do the same test, but I'm going to take off the armor breaker's jewelry so he's a 4 out of 6. That pure damage ability has a weaker version in the 4 out of 6 set, but the 4 out of 6 doesn't have the self-damage. But it also doesn't target the fighter with the highest armor, which won't matter in this test, but it's very important. And me from the future is here and can tell you that I did some more 4 out of 6 tests and it just wasn't impressive at all. The turret appears at the 7-second mark, and we're still getting those big damage jumps. When the clock was at 2:57, we saw 221,000. At 2 minutes 54, we saw another 224,000. And when the clock is at 2:51, we see 113,000. And he also still turns red about once a second. So I don't know if that is the self-damage like I thought before, or if it's just the glow of his own shotgun firing or something else. This battle is obviously going to time out, so it looks like the lower numbers in the 4 out of 6 ability make the difference that the BK is able to brush off the damage. And it's also a little funny because the difference in pure damage between the 6 out of 6 and the 4 out of 6 is like 150,000, and that's once every 3 seconds. And this is making the difference between a win and a timeout. Meanwhile, it's 125,000 damage every second that the armor breaker is dealing to himself. I'm going to fast forward to the stat screen. I don't think there's anything else to see here. Again, tons of pure damage, but he only received 50,000 damage. How did he receive 50,000 damage? I'm not sure. It must be an ability on the BK that I forgot to remove because she didn't do it by slapping him. Also, I can't explain why the damage doesn't add up. It added up in the 6 out of 6 test, but here, team right side did 4 million plus 16 million damage, and somehow team left side took 23 million. I didn't think my BK did self-damage, so that's a bit odd, but outside the scope of this video. Alright, the next section of this video is clan territory bosses. I'm going to play an attack now while I keep talking. Still have strep throat this past week. So I did this ahead of time to make sure I did it before the bosses were not available. And what I did was I just alternated hitting the bosses with the armor breaker and then with my second cultist in the same spot in my squad. That was the comparison I did. So I don't use a special boss squad. I just readjust my hero and change like one artifact. So my normal squad is Blade King, Tank Mage, Ashe, Snake Charmer, 2 cultists, Ranger, and Dragonborn. And with this, I'm able to get 29 to sometimes 33 lives off of the 3 bosses at level 11. So that's the baseline. Then when I took out 1 cultist, I have 2, and put in the armor breaker, it was still the same, like absolutely the same. Now, and this will be true for other tests later too. I'm comparing this loner armor breaker to fighters in my normal squad. But my normal squad is all event gear, and this loner is all standard gear. So it's not a fair comparison. So when the results are a tie, that actually means that the test set is better. So the results here in CT bosses I got are the same amount of lives. And in a tie, the point goes to the test set. So point to armor breaker. But They definitely made the CT bosses at least partially immune to his abilities, because based on the set description, Armor Breaker should be eating CT bosses for breakfast, especially Pumbaa, and instead he's like on par with the cultist. So again, he did good, but this is not a game changer against bosses like maybe some of you were hoping he would be. I was hoping he would be. Okay, runes. I got a request to talk about runes, so I will. It's pretty much going to be the same as an inventor. Shotguns are not a new weapon, and even though Armor Breaker is supposed to be wearing tank armor, it's still kind of a hybrid. It's still a tank armor and archer weapon. So those tank armor runes are not going to work because of the archer weapon. Let's open up the rune database and filter for shotgun and see if there's anything interesting in there. There's one I know is interesting, but let's take a look. Okay, so I'm going to filter for runes that fit on an archer or fit onto anybody. And these first ones we can ignore because they're just gonna kind of be different for anything. They're not really super relevant. So the first ones I care about are these golden ring runes. And let's scroll over to the effect for a shotgun. And this first one, Defilement, that goes really nice on Scepter, but let's read what it would do on a shotgun. When attacking, has a 25% chance of cursing the target. The curse enhances the damage the target takes by 30% and reduces the amount of health the target is resurrected with by 50%. It's like not that impressive. I would keep that on a Scepter Mage. And this one, the Room of Flame. This is the one I was pointing to earlier. People used to keep partial inventors in their squad, like just to use this ring rune. I think it's been nerfed down since then, but I think it is still overpowered, as far as I know. Once in a while, deals 20,000 damage to all enemies, has a 50% chance of blinding each enemy hit for 4 seconds. Blinded targets have a 50% chance of missing when attacking. I think it's actually more powerful than it says, even though I think it was nerfed down, like I said, but I think this one is still really great on a shotgun. But let's look at the other one. When attacking, has a 40% chance of hitting the target with a lightning bolt, deals 45,000 damage, and reduces the affected enemy's armor to 0 for 3 seconds. Well, we don't want that. We don't want to cancel out the armor. That's the whole point of the set. Okay, let's look at these next group here. So these are all the same on any archer. So this is not too interesting because it'd be the same on any like second archer you would have on your squad. So I'm not going to read all these because that would take like an hour. The one exception is going to be this Rune of Courage that goes on an artifact. Once in a while, when taking damage, absorbs the incoming damage, restores 30,000 health in self over 5 seconds, cannot be targeted for attack during that time. So this rune was pretty standard on Darkula when we all had Darkulas, and it worked really well with the self-damage also triggering it. So I think this could be good on our Armor Breaker because, again, the self-damage. And let's scroll down to these other archer runes that have a different for every type of archer weapon and look over at shotgun again. Okay, flexibility. Once in a while, the unit shoots at a random enemy mage, reducing their spell power by 30% for 3 seconds. Also, the shot deals damage equal to 800% of the spell power, reduction to the target and enemies within a small radius around it. That sounds nice. On dealing 40,000 damage, summons an additional turret. I've been saying cannon, but I think they use the word turret. That cannot be killed and deals 14,000 damage per second. Every 40,000 damage done by the turret's owner enhances damage done by the turret by 1,000 stacks 5 times. The turret is destroyed when the owner is killed. So the problem with that is it's 14,000 damage with an additional possible 5,000 damage. So like 19,000 damage. It's that's nothing. Move on to resourcefulness. Once in a while, the unit takes a shot at a random enemy, dealing damage equal to 18% of the target's max health. Preferred enemy warriors. That sounds good. Keen vision. Once in a while, the unit summons a minion. All enemy mages take damage equal to 80% of their spell power. Also, enemy mages have their spell power reduced by 40% of 3 seconds. That sounds really good. Once in a while, the unit deals physical damage to all enemies. The closer the enemy, the higher the damage. Max damage 80,000, mid damage 28,000. Yeah, seems fine. And accuracy. When a turret is summoned, the unit's damage is enhanced by 18%. The effect lasts as long as the turret is alive. Yeah, that also sounds good. Yeah, all sound good. Okay, now these Diamond Grab event runes here. Let's look at the archer abilities. Once in a while, the unit fires a rocket at a random enemy. I'm just going to power through these church bells. Once in a while, the unit fires a rocket at a random enemy. The further away the enemy is, the more damage they will take. Minimum damage 5% of the target's max health. Max damage 50% of the target's max health. Yeah, it's fine. I think I like that better on a mage though. When the unit deals critical damage, their damage is enhanced by 7% for 10 seconds. Shotguns don't do a lot of crit, so I wouldn't look for gear that triggers on crit on a shotgun. Once in a while, the unit's shot reduces the physical armor of the target by 70%. Again, we don't want to reduce the armor. We want to use the armor against them. All right, so I think that's it for runes. Now we're going to move on to the highlight of the video, the squad challenge tests. Testing in the context of a full squad against another full squad. I'm actually curious how this will go myself. I've been using this guy on and off for a week, and I didn't get a strong sense either way, but I'm not good at just sensing stuff like that. I need tests. I'm going to do this the same as the CT boss tests. I'm going to do a baseline with my normal squad, then I'm going to take out one of my fighters, specifically the second cultist, and put in the armor breaker. I've given the armor breaker that W-shaped flame rune and the same artifact as the cultist, and I'm also going to give him the rune of courage. This rune was really good on Dracula back in the day. Dracula also does self-damage, so I think it would make sense on an armor breaker. But otherwise, everything else the same for science. As you can see, I've already started. I don't want this video to be 5 hours long. These are the armor breaker battles. I'm going to save you all from having to watch the baseline battles. My scoring system is a big W means a clear win, and a little w means I won, but there was a moment in the fight when I thought I was going to lose. And the reverse. Big L, clear loss, little l was a very close loss. I'm going to keep these on 4 times speed, and if you want it slower, there is a button that looks like a gear, and you can play this video at a slower speed if you want to watch more closely. Oh, and while we were all kind of sitting here watching through these, I almost forgot to tell you all to enter my weekly diamond giveaway. Leave a comment on any of my videos, for example this one. Make sure you include your game ID. A comment with just your game ID is totally fine. Every week 5 random winners are chosen from all the comments made since the previous drawing, and they get 250 diamonds, sponsored by the official Hustle Castle community. Alright, let me turn my attention to these actual battles on the screen. Now, in theory, Armor Breaker is capable of doing like 300,000 pure damage every 3 seconds. But if you've been looking at these battle stats, like he's not getting that at all. He's getting like 1 to 2 million and not even much pure damage. Like it's supposed to be pure damage, that really good ability that I really liked in the slow motion tests. So yeah, it's just not happening. I guess he's just dead too much. Now, I could see someone like building a squad completely around Armor Breaker. Like if you just like filled your squad with tons of healers and kept him alive, and he was actually able to do that 300,000 pure damage every 3 seconds. He could be amazing. He could maybe carry a squad. Like that would be a really interesting idea. Obviously, like I don't have the resources to try that out right now because like you'd have to build a whole squad around that, and then maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. And I think that's the only way I see Armor Breaker working out as a good set, was if you built your whole squad around healing and trying to keep him alive. Yeah, just kind of disappointing levels of damage coming out of him in every battle. Okay. Let's see what this one is. Yeah, again, very little pure damage. I'm just kind of speed through these. Yeah, you see he's dead pretty much the whole battle. So he does still get, gets less the farther we get in the heart of the opponents because he spends even more time dead. Let's see, yeah, he's getting a little bit of damage here, but I'm seeing a very small amount of pure damage. You know, even though that ability has a quick cooldown time, just 3 seconds, it's not happening. Okay, now here we are against the expert on balance, which is one of the opponents where Armor Breaker did actually do better than my baseline tests. But it was still kind of close both ways. And it doesn't really look like Armor Breaker made the difference in that battle. All right, now here we are against the last opponent. I wasn't even going to include this guy in my test because he's 48 million and I'm what am I? I'm 30 million in these tests. But amazingly, in the baseline, I won one of them. So I was like, okay, well, I guess it's worth including in the tests. You know, the close battles are the ones that are most interesting to test. But this one I did better with my regular cultist squad. All right, very last battle. Now, obviously the self-damage is a really big problem, but that's only at the 6 out of 6 version of this set. And what seems like the best ability, we also get in the 4 out of 6 version of this set. So even though in the beginning I was like, this guy already has tank armor, so of course we're always going to use him at 6 out of 6, I'm going to say now that I was wrong. It's not obviously true. It might still be true, but it's not obvious if it is or not. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do 2 more battles, but this time with a 4 out of 6 armor breaker. Earlier in the slow motion tests, I just took off the jewelry to make a 4 out of 6 because what we were looking for was the abilities. Now I want to make as strong a hybrid as possible with what I have laying around. I have an extra 2 out of 6 Dragonborn with the rapid fire crossbow. Dragonborn is maybe the best set at the 2 out of 6 level, so that seems like a good choice for this test. But a tank mage, or would it be an archer mage if it's still tank armor? I'm not sure. It would be something new for sure. That could also be fun to play with too. Now the tests are already on screen and you can see both were terrible losses. So it looks like it's no good in my opinion. I guess even though it solves the self-damage problem, a 4 out of 6 armor breaker just isn't as good as a 6 out of 6 cultist. I'll finish up with a summary of my thoughts and my data for this set. They don't really release new sets that are bad, so it's a safe bet for me to say that I think the set is good. Now, I've never, at least I don't think I've ever said something like the game developers really need to adjust blah blah blah. But I think the self-damage of 125,000 per second is too high, and this set should be adjusted. You have to be like a 30 million power squad to be able to brush off 125,000 damage per second. And even then, it's still a lot. My squad is having a very hard time with it. Do keep in mind that I'm pulling that 30 million number out of thin air, but I want to say a hard number because if you are a new TR11, Armor Breaker should not be one of your first sats that you build. Frankly, you won't be able to keep him alive. If you are a new TR11, or even not new, the first priority should be Dragonborn. I have a video on the best gear for her. And then I would work on Incinerator, Blade King, and Cultist. The materials for those drop in different places in the game. So even though one 6 out of 6 is way, way better than a bunch of 2 and 4 out of 6 sets, when you're a baby TR11, you're limited by materials and you gotta do what you gotta do. So, my fellow old timers, is it worth it for us to build one of these guys? I think only if you're bored and have nothing else better to build. We saw against clan territory bosses, maybe he's getting 1 extra life, but the data averaged out and was almost exactly equal. He's not going to be a game changer worthy of building just for CT bosses, at least I don't think so. In PvP, we had interesting results. 2 matches I did better with Armor Breaker and 2 I did better with a second cultist. And as I said before, the tie goes to Armor Breaker because he's in worse gear. Being better against some and worse against others is kind of what I would expect for 2 reasons. First, Armor Breaker's abilities are all about countering the strength of the enemy, so different enemies will work better than others. And 2, this guy dies a lot. He spends a lot of battle laying down, so that introduces RNG, but so does Cultist. So the randomness levels is pretty close between the 2 different setups. The only other game aspect is Expedition. We saw in the slow motion test that Armor Breaker at 6 out of 6 was able to kill BK, but I did some more tests and BK and DB versus Armor Breaker and DB, the BK easily won every time. And then I tried some 4-man combos, and again, I was stronger with 2 mages. So my conclusion is, I think it's good, and certainly interesting. Again, when it's a tie, the point goes to the Armor Breaker, and the results for the PvP was sort of a tie, but like a weird tie. So it's really close. Maybe Armor Breaker is better than having a second cultist. Maybe, not sure. But there's also a couple other sets that kind of want that spot on my team. I don't have an Ice Angler yet. Actually, I just have like a 2 out of 6. And also there's the Battle Mage. So my conclusion is, I think it's good and certainly interesting. There's no aspect of the game where I think it'll definitely be super. Like when I first saw Cultist, I was like, well, at a minimum, I'm going to use it in Clan War to counter Alien Scepter. I do really think that 125,000 damage every second needs to be reduced because he's too kamikaze. He kills himself early in battle. So if they adjust that, I might make one for fun since it's an easy set to make. Okay. And a special teaser for those of you with the attention span to stay all the way until the end. Literally, while I am editing this video, I just got my reminder from community manager Kate that the set will be returned tomorrow. so I can have it cleaned and pressed, ready for pickup. And yes, I am doing this video last minute. The strep throat has me behind on everything. And I asked her if I could still borrow Battle Mage. She had offered a while back, and I asked to postpone a week, but several weeks have passed. And she said I still can. She said yes. So expect a Battle Mage video probably in about 2 weeks. Also, I'm moving exactly 2 weeks from now, so I'm sure I'll be regretting this, but who can resist? All right, bye dudes and dudettes. I will see you in-game or in another video. Please do watch more. I do work so hard on them. All right, bye.